What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 8 sleeper picks.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to give you some of my top DFS sleeper picks, super low priced and low ownership players that could crush value this week and give your lineup an advantage over the field. These are risky plays, meant for large tournaments only. Don't go all in on any of these guys. They are high risk, high reward picks. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, NFL Week 8. Let's take a look at the quarterback position. So I was having a hard time finding sleeper picks at the quarterback position. You got a couple of low ownership plays here like Ryan Tannehill or Jameis Winston, but I don't really like those guys. Their salary's up there. So my sleeper pick at the quarterback position is Tua Tagovailoa from the Miami Dolphins playing the Buffalo Bills, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing quarterbacks, but Tua Tagovailoa has averaged 17.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.8 rush attempts per game. Now, he was injured for some of the season, and he had a bad game there because of injury, so that average fantasy points per game on the season is a little bit low because of that, and he's only going to be about 2% owned, and he's only projected at 15.4 fantasy points here in Week 8, which I think that projection is way too low. I think he can score over 20 fantasy points in this one, and he's only $5,500 DraftKings salary, and he's $1,600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 48.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Dolphins trailing by 14. So Tua Tagovailoa has scored 29 and 25 fantasy points in his last 2 weeks, rushing the ball 4 and 3 times in those games. So he's come back from injury, and he's looked really good. He's got a great wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. He's got Mike Gesicki as his tight end. So he's got some weapons to throw the ball. And this should be a passing game script as they fall behind the Buffalo Bills. So he's going to have plenty of opportunity to rack up those fantasy points. So I like Tua Tagovailoa here versus the Buffalo Bills. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So this ownership is a little bit higher than I like on my sleeper picks, but I just want to point him out here because I think his ownership is way too low. So one of my sleeper picks here is Damian Harris from the New England Patriots playing the Los Angeles Chargers, who have a middle of the pack defense overall, but they give up the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Damian Harris, he's averaged 13.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 13.6 rush attempts per game and 1.6 pass targets per game. He's only going to be about 6% owned, projected at 13.1 fantasy points here in Week 8, and he's $6,100 DraftKings salary, $800 more on FanDuel. So I like that FanDuel price. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 49.5 points scored in this game, with the Patriots trailing by 4.5. So you got a pretty high scoring game here, relatively close competitive game, and the LA Chargers, they haven't been able to stop the run so far this season. So I think Damian Harris is going to run all over the Chargers, and he scored 28 and 21 fantasy points in the last 2 weeks, and he had 16 touches last week, 19 touches the week before that. So I think it's going to be a running game script for the New England Patriots because it's going to be close enough that they can run the ball and that is the Chargers' weakness in their defense. So I like Damian Harris here versus the LA Chargers.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, now my sleeper pick at the running back position is Nick Chubb from the Cleveland Browns playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They've been pretty good versus opposing running backs, but Nick Chubb has averaged 18 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 18 rush attempts per game and 1 pass target per game. He's only going to be about 4% owned, and he's projected at 16.4 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $6,800 DraftKings salary, $1,200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Browns favored by 4.5. So the reason I like this pick is because Kareem Hunt is still out, so Nick Chubb is going to be the sole running back. Normally he splits the carries with Kareem Hunt, so he should get a ton of volume in this one. I think he's healthy. He should be good to go. He should get a ton of work in this game. So I like Nick Chubb here versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So this guy's back from injury, and I think he's going to be a sneaky play here this week in a fantastic matchup. One of my sleeper picks at the wide receiver position is Jerry Jeudy, and from the Denver Broncos playing the Washington football team, who have the worst defense overall. They give up the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Jerry Jeudy has averaged 13.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7 pass targets per game. He's only going to be about 2% owned. He's projected at 12.1 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $4,900 DraftKings salary, $1,100 more on FanDuel. So he came back from injury last week. He got 7 pass targets, scored 13 fantasy points. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 44.5 points scored in this game, with the Broncos favored by 3.5. So it's a fantastic matchup. I think people have kind of forgotten about Jerry Jeudy, but he's an excellent wide receiver. He should get plenty of opportunity in this game. So I like Jerry Jeudy here versus the Washington football team. Now another sleeper pick is Robbie Anderson from the Carolina Panthers playing the Atlanta Falcons, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Robbie Anderson, he's only averaged 7.2 fantasy points per game on the season, so that fantasy points per game average is super low, but he is averaging 7 pass targets per game, and he's on the field for 82% of the snaps. He's only going to be about 3% owned, projected at 10.9 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's only $4,700 DraftKings salary, $1,000 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46.5 points scored in this game, with the Panthers trailing by 3. So it's a good matchup here. And I just like the volume that Robbie Anderson is getting. He got 9, 11, and 7 pass targets in the last 3 games. So he's getting plenty of opportunity. Just a matter of time before he ends up catching one of those passes for a touchdown and puts up double-digit fantasy points. So I like Robbie Anderson here versus the Atlanta Falcons.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, another sleeper pick. This is a deep sleeper pick here at the wide receiver position. I like Jamal Agnew from the Jacksonville Jaguars playing the Seattle Seahawks, who have the 8th worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing wide receivers. Jamal Agnew, he's only averaged 5.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.3 pass targets per game. But take a look at these last 2 games. He scored 13 and 11 fantasy points off of 6 and 8 pass targets. He's only going to be about 1% owned, projected at 6.3 fantasy points here in week 8. But I think he can score 10 fantasy points or more in this one. And he's only $3,700 DraftKings salary. He's $1,600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 44 points scored in this game, with the Jaguars trailing by 3.5. So I think he's a pretty decent deep sleeper pick here. Dart throw play, but if he's going to get 6 to 8 pass targets, plenty of opportunity, super low salary, low ownership. So I like Jamal Agnew here versus the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. One of my sleeper picks at the tight end position is Gerald Everett from the Seattle Seahawks playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have the 5th worst defense overall, but they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Gerald Everett has averaged 6.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3 pass targets per game. He's only going to be about 1% owned, projected at 5.8 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score 10 fantasy points or more, and he's only $3,300 DraftKings salary, $1,500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 44 points scored in this game, with the Seattle Seahawks favored by 3.5. So this is a great tight end matchup here. He got 3 pass targets in each of his last 2 games, and he came back from injury, so now he's got a couple of games under his belt. I think he sees 3 to 5 pass targets in this one, and I think he can find the end zone. So I like Gerald Everett here versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, another sleeper pick here at the tight end position is Cole Kmet from the Chicago Bears playing the San Francisco 49ers, who have a middle of the pack defense overall. And although they've been pretty good versus opposing tight ends, Cole Kmet, he scored 9 fantasy points in each of his last 2 games. He's getting an average of 4.3 pass targets per game, but he got 6 pass targets last game, 5 pass targets the game before that, so plenty of volume here. And I like this pick because he's on the field for 83% of the snaps. He's only going to be about 2% owned, projected at 7.5 fantasy points here in week 8. And he's only $3,100 DraftKings salary, $1,600 more on FanDuel. Now Vegas thinks there's going to be 39.5 points scored in this game, with the Chicago Bears trailing by 4. So a low scoring game here, but he only needs to catch the ball once in the end zone to hit value at such a low salary. And I like that low ownership. Plenty of opportunity with 6 pass targets last game. So I like Cole Kmet here versus the San Francisco 49ers.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.